Hi everyone. So in the previous video we have seen how you can add a device on a PlantConnect server. In this video I am going to show you how you can add multiple variables on a PlantConnect server. For this case we are going to add 4 variables on a PlantConnect server. I have grouped these 4 variables in 2 types. One type is for sensor data variables and the other type is for OE data variables. In the sensor data variables, we are majorly going to configure 2 variables like pressure and temperature. You can have multiple or n number of variables in this type. For the OE group, I am going to configure 2 variables. Those are bad quantity and quantity. In case of sending data of OE related parameters to the Oracle Cloud, you need to configure only these 2 variables on the PlantConnect server. So with this we can start with the configuration of variables. So in the admins, say site admin tool, in the left panel select variable and below the variable you have add option. So click on the add. On this page you need to select the plant and device. In our case the plant is demo Oracle plant and the device is demo injection machine. So on this page you need to configure a variable and its properties. So let's configure the variable name. So let's configure pressure. Then you need to configure the start address for this variable. In our case, the start address for pressure variable on the Modbus register is 0 and the end address is 30 and the data type is 16-bit unsigned integer, as we are going to read the data which is in the form of analog value. So we have selected the type as analog. Then we have a option known as precision or the key known as precision. You need to configure this precision as 2. So this will show the value on for this pressure as, say for example, the actual value is 30 and using this precision this value will be shown as 30.00 on the PlantConnect server. So we have configured the precision as 2. Then you need to select the log flag. In our case the log flag value is log at frequency, as we have to log this pressure value at each frequency, each polling frequency. So we'll keep it as log at frequency and its frequency is 5000, which is our polling frequency. So keep the scaling as 1, as we do not have to scale this pressure value. Then keep this data source as device, and here you need to configure the variable output name for this pressure variable. This variable output field is used in case when we have to send data to any third party server. For example, in case of Oracle, I have a JSON request which has the variable output name or which has the parameter name as pressure. So I will configure that particular name of the variable in this variable output field. So let's configure it as pressure, and with this we can save this configuration for the pressure variable. Yes, in this way we can add the variable configuration for all the other variables also, like temperature, then we have quantity and bad quantity. So let's start with the configuration of temperature variable. So we'll add the variable name as temperature. Then the start address for this variable or the parameter is 1 and the end address is 30. Then the data type which you have to select is 16-bit unsigned integer. Then the precision as 2. Then we have log at frequency, we'll keep it as it is. Then we have scaling, we'll keep it as 1.0. Then data source as device, and here in variable output you will configure temperature as variable output name for this particular parameter temperature. So with this you can save this configuration of temperature variable, and you can notice the variable is successfully added. Then we will configure the variable for the quantity. This variable is used in case of OE data configuration. So let's configure this. Then we have start address as say 2. Then we have end address as 30. Then select data type as 16-bit unsigned integer, free holding register. Then give the precision as 2. We'll have the log flag as log at frequency and frequency as 5000. Then we'll have the scaling as 1, data source as device. And now for the variable output you need to configure it as quantity. In this case you can notice the variable output name has Q in small letters. So this is the variable which we are going to use in our JSON request. So when we are going to send the JSON request, the Q in the JSON request for the quantity will be in small case. So we have configured this quantity with Q in small case. Okay, so we are done with the configuration of quantity. Let's save it. Yeah. So then we have a variable known as bad quantity. So let's configure it. This variable will also be used for the OE data. Bad quantity. Then for this we have start address as free and the end address as 30. Then we need to select the data type as 16-bit. Then precision as 2, log at frequency, scaling 1, data source device, variable output name as bad quantity. Okay, quantity. Okay, so you need to configure the variable output name as bad quantity in this way. Okay, with this we have configured the bad quantity variable as well. So let's save this. Okay, so with this we have added all the 4 variables. Now you can also group these variables, as we have decided to group these variables in 2 types. Like one data will have the sensor parameters as pressure and temperature, and the other data group will be having the OE related parameters like quantity and bad quantity. So let's configure the data group also on PlantConnect server. So click on the home button and you will have this PlantConnect site admin tool. So select variable and then select data group. Under data group you have to click on add, then select the plant and device as we have configured. Okay, So we'll first of all configure the sensor data group, and the variables which we have to configure for the sensor group are pressure and temperature. So you need to just double click on these variables which you need to add for this particular data group. So we'll have this data group as by default data group. Then we'll click on save button. Yes. Then we'll add a data group for the OE parameters, and the data group name is OE. And the parameters under this data group are quantity and bad quantity. So we'll double click on these variables and we'll click on the save button. Yes, with this we have configured two different data groups for sensor data and OE data. So let's see how the data groups are seen on the PlantConnect server page. So let's refresh this. Okay, let's quickly log in. So you will notice the device which we have added is demo injection machine. So click on this demo injection machine, and in the data tab you need to click on current data, and here on this page you can see all the variables which you have configured for this particular device. So on the right side of this page you can select the data groups. In the sensor data group we have configured two variables, so you can see those two variables as temperature and pressure. You can also have a tabular view of these variables by clicking on table view. So you will see the pressure and temperature being configured on the sensor data group, and then if you click on the sensor and select the data group as OE, you will see the variables configured under the OE data group as quantity and bad quantity. So with this we have configured the variables for the Oracle output driver. Thank you.